revolutionary greetings to all the comrades who are presenting on this historic day. The responsibility that has assigned to me is basically to introduce the content of the Manifesto of the People's Struggle Alliance. So I'm going to do it in a form of a statement as bearing the collective responsibility, and I'll try to walk you through the important aspects, the important policies that we have included after many debates that we have included in the People's Struggle Manifesto. First of all, let me quote a few lines that appeared in one of the publications by the Socialist Alternative, a socialist movement based in United States of America. Those lines appeared in the chapter, in one of the books, in one of the chapters, Making Path to Socialism. They stated, if you don't know where you want to go, no road will take you there. However, knowing where you want to go is only the first part. It is not at all the same as knowing how to get there. The Manifesto of the People's Struggle Alliance, which was launched today, answers the question, where do you want to go from here? We answer, we want to go towards socialism. And it does not just stop there. It presents a short-term program that addresses the urgent needs of the people of the crisis-ridden Sri Lanka and all the contingencies of the bodies of political economy, law and democracy and geopolitics. Dear comrades, let me walk you through some of the sections of the manifesto. There are three main sections in the manifesto. Firstly, the very first section, we are presenting the long-term program based on the ideals of the people's power, or people's government, or if you wish, people's rule. This is actually where we want to go as a political party, as a movement, as an alliance, as carrying with us the society of Sri Lanka, which has a specific characteristics as an underdeveloped, backward capitalist country. In the long-term program, we have identified the key areas that require systematic transformation supported by a comprehensive set of short-term and long-term solutions, programs and interventions. In the second section of the manifesto, if you read, it is an embedded part of the long-term program. We are presenting the transitional program that addresses short-term needs and contingencies of the macroeconomy, democratic rights of the people, and welfare of the masses that urges to break away from the IMF-led austerity. As you will see in this section, we have highlighted not only the question of economy, but also the necessity of transforming the state structure, securing democracy, transitional solutions for the national question of Sri Lanka, and extending its boundaries and revisiting oppressive anti-democratic laws and laws that violate the sovereign rights of the people to determine its monetary, fiscal, economic policy in general. For an example, as Comrade Pubudu also mentioned, we should get rid of the so-called central bank independence law which passed in 2023. Also, the recently passed bill, economic transformation, now it became a law. So we are planning to get rid of those laws. Thirdly, in the third part, as a specific appendix, we are presenting our program, Exit IMF. Exit IMF is a political choice that necessitated by the failures of the existing deal and its enormous pressure on the people of Sri Lanka and its future generations. Dear comrades, we can observe that policies, principles, and the people who systematically created the economic crisis are still in power and intend to continue the same set of policies. We see a continuation of neoliberal free market capitalism, which miserably failed in 2022. the proletariat of this country, would not get anything out of these policies. The electoral cycle, on the other hand, also will leave them with hopelessness. Let me briefly highlight some of the themes that we paid our attention in the long-term and transitional program. In the section of the state, if you read, in the section of the state structure, you will be able to read the way we analyze the existing bourgeois state structure and its limits. And at the same time, we show you the real possibilities of democracy that goes beyond the liberal democratic state. Thus, the basis for such democratic practice is, in our view, are following. Firstly, the approach to democracy cannot be de-linked from the economic democracy. The right of the people to own, manage, and utilize their labor and surplus labor in a meaningful way. Thus, in our democratic framework, the state is not a state of the few of the ruling elites, bureaucrats, and technocrats, but a state that increasingly surpasses those conventional liberal values, class powers, and all the bourgeois values and rights. Comrades, we want to gain real democracy. A radical approach to democracy is much required in this historical juncture where the executive branch of this democratic state and the parliament are shamelessly violating even the existing democratic values of the country. Securing what we have as democracy, deepening their practices and extending limits and move towards radical practices of democracy and direct democracy is our main objective. Therefore, secondly, our approach goes beyond the liberal justification for the balance of power among the executive branches, executive branch, parliament, and the judicial system. The challenge that we are not shying away is to take up the contribution and representation of the people's power in these democratic bodies through, firstly, council democracy at the grassroots. Secondly, constitutionalized direct democracy with recalling powers, and thirdly, by political empowerment of the people at the workplaces. Dear comrades, let me tell you a word about exploitation, because if you look at the so-called popular left in Sri Lanka do not talk about exploitation at all, which is one of the cornerstones of Marxist thinking, leftist thinking. We firmly believe within a socialist state, we must eradicate the social conditions that exist to exploit a human being by another human being. On that guiding principle, we intend to start our work towards eradicating the economic structure of the state that justifies the production, distribution, and reinvestment based on the decisions of the few on the back of the labor of many. Furthermore, in the case of new economic model that we present, the decisions taken by the socialist state should be reviewed by the people themselves. And once again, we emphasize the fundamental importance of the involvement of the people in economic decision making of this state. In order to grasp our program for this, you should read the section on economic, political, social, cultural, and environment. And also I urge you to read the section on labor policy. And we have a special section in our manifesto addressing the global conditions of capitalism that demand the ideal people before profit, needs before market exchange, and the civilization before market. Thus, in our manifesto, we address the real limits of exploitation of nature by capital in the section ecology. Also, I would like to talk a little bit about the Constitution. The Constitution, the proposal that we are presenting is, in order to fulfill the objectives of the above that I mentioned, we want to have a socialist constitution. In our manifesto, we have listed down policies that we base our new constitution. Firstly, immediate appointment of Constitutional Council. Secondly, the Constitutional Council must be represented by the elected members of the working class, farmers, workers, fishing communities, and also critical legal experts. Thirdly, Constitutional Council must listen to the voices of the people in public assemblies. Fourthly, the Constitution should be strong enough to curtail the possibilities of passing laws that limit people's democratic rights, generating tension between ethnicities and divide people on the cultural, religious and gender line, especially the LGBTQ rights. Finally, we want to have a constitution with the values of listening to people and their voices. Is this doable? Can this be done? We strongly believe it can be done. As Marx correctly said, the law must be changed according to the legal nature of things, according to the legal nature of the social contract, but not according to the dead traditions or powers of the few. We must highlight that in such a constitution, one of our main objectives is to find solutions to the national question of the Tamils, Muslims and Malay Makkal Tamils, with democratic rights and self-governing territories with decentralized state powers. Also, let me talk a little bit about the People's Councils, because in the recent past, when we announced that we are contesting for the election, some of the critiques of the popular left once again posed the question where, are you done with the idea or are you done with the political principle, power beyond Devannaga? We want to say, we just started to move the power beyond Devannaga. If you actually read this manifesto in the section of People's Council, you would understand that how politically immature and short-sighted those claims are. If you are so skeptical that we have given up the project of democracy from the bottom strata of the society, I urge you to read the section of People's Council in the manifesto. For the critics of the popular left, I would like to ask that we know that it is a hard battle. It is an uphill battle, but we are not going to give up the battle. This is what Marx and Engels taught us. We are not just driven by the Marxist theory, but also by human hope. Among other things, let me point out the key things in the transitional program in the manifesto, which is our decision for anti-austerity policies, which introduced by the IMF, Ranil and Nandalal at the central bank. We identified the importance of macro-level welfare program to the masses at this critical juncture. For example, we are going to focus on fuel quota for a welfare price for transportation sector, electricity and energy quota for farmers, fishermen and small medium scale producers, certified lowest prices, reducing tariff for agricultural equipment, securing medicine for patients, and we are going to be concerned about the reproduction health as well. And also one of the things that we highlighted throughout our ideological struggle was actually exit IMF strategy. Now let me tell you a little bit about the exit IMF strategy. We will implement an international framework on debt justice and a new audit of Sri Lanka's existing amount of debt. Our attempt is basically to reduce Sri Lanka's total debt by 60%. If you look at the deal that Ranil Wickremesinghe is having with IMF, is just very minimum, 10%. But our intention is to reduce our total debt by 60%. For that, we want to have an international body, international auditing unit, to carefully evaluate the kind of debt that Sri Lanka has. For an example, if you look at the mass of the debt of Sri Lanka, it is full of predatory loans, it is full of odious debt, it is full of illegitimate loans. So there should be a way, there should be a debt justice to reduce this debt from the debt mountain. Secondly, Sri Lanka must enter into a debtors' common bargaining collective and a debt cancellation campaign. Sri Lanka should start direct negotiations with the creditors. Also, Sri Lanka should start direct negotiations with China. Thirdly, debt payment should not start until the economic stability is completely achieved. For example, unemployment rate should be reduced to a certain margin, certain level, and also levels of prices, economic development indicators, and also the foreign reserve should have a certain level of improvement. Fourthly, we want to highlight that we are all for import management policy. It should be implemented for at least 5 years to secure Sri Lanka's foreign reserves. Funds should be secured through promotion of import substitution, industries and export-oriented industries, especially during the time period of moratorium which I mentioned for 5 years. The local supply chain, most of the mainstream economists do not pay any attention to the promotion of the local supply chain, promotion of the small-scale producers, promotion of medium-scale producers of the at the bottom layer in the supply chain. So we are proposing a policy to develop and promote local supply chain and to strengthen the export promotion policy and also to counter imports with the local supply chain promotion. Finally, fifthly actually, we want to have an independent monetary and fiscal policy. Right now, the fiscal and the monetary policy of Sri Lanka is actually governed by, not by the central bank, but by the IMF. So if you ask me the question, what kind of democracy exists in Sri Lanka at this point? It is not a democracy, it is a bankocracy. Finally, the government should actively intervene in the economy with the long-term objective of developing aggregate demand and redistribution of wealth. If you look at any economic crisis in the West, the government intervention is so high and so crucial, so swift. But why the hypocrisy that the same policies are not good for to curtail the impacts of the economic crisis of Sri Lanka? So finally, comrades, let me tell you this after a long speech. It is a small book, but a powerful one, and read it, use it. It is a class weapon. Thank you so much.